All right, finally, the 2026 IndyCar season schedule is out. There's a couple of things that were some surprises, a lot of things that were not surprises. So let's talk about it. Before we do, hit the like button, leave a comment for me, and subscribe. Helps the channel out a ton. All right, here we go. The IndyCar 2026 schedule, just as we kind of expected. Front-loaded, that's great. There's some great things about this schedule. There's some meh things about this schedule, and there's some not so great things about this schedule. And the beginning of the season, what did we ask for? We asked for more races at the beginning of the season, and I believe I read that there are more races at the beginning of the season in an IndyCar season than there have ever been before the Indianapolis 500. So I'm just going to come right off of the bat and say, great job, IndyCar. Great job. Because the worst thing that happened this year was coming off of the Super Bowl and all those ads and all the momentum that you were riding into Fox. And then you got that great rating at St. Pete, and then nothing. You fell off the map. So, I mean, when you look at this schedule and you think about obviously the traditional run at St. Pete, the addition of the NASCAR Truck Series, which I think is going to help that event, at least in person, probably on television as well, just in terms of people being aware of what's going on. To go to Phoenix after that, a returning oval, an oval that, yes, when they went there from 2016 to 2019, was it? 2018, 2019? That was not a great race. But if you look at most of the short ovals in that time period, they weren't great races. There was a lack of understanding of how to produce good racing on the short ovals in that particular time period of IndyCar racing. We're not in that time period anymore. So I think Phoenix is going to be awesome. That's a doubleheader with NASCAR, as I first reported here, about a month ago. I guess the one downside of this, there's a couple of downsides of Phoenix, and it has nothing to do with the racing. The downside, number one, is that it is on Saturday. It's not a true doubleheader with the Cup Series. It's going to be a doubleheader on Saturday with the Xfinity Series. And even then, it doesn't necessarily sound like the IndyCar race will be first. It might be, second. It won't be the number one priority. It won't be the headliner on Saturday. That might be the Xfinity Series. It's still kind of unclear exactly how the timing is going to work of that. But all of that being said, I think having an oval before the Indianapolis 500, I think having a traditional venue, all those things I like. We'll talk a little bit more about Phoenix in a bit. Arlington was announced so long ago that I think a lot of the hype around it has kind of, I don't want to say died down, but there's less people kind of talking about Arlington. That's a new event. Invested promoter, excited promoter with the Dallas Cowboys and the Texas Rangers, and of course Penske Entertainment involved there as well. I know a lot of the partners of the series are looking forward to that one. Zach Brown in his letter yesterday shouted that out. A lot of other industry people have been shouting that one out. So that's great. You go from St. Pete, a great traditional event. You go to Phoenix, an oval crossover with NASCAR, which is something that we've kind of been hoping would happen forever. And then Arlington. So no problem. Quote unquote a week off. I'll get into why it's not really a week off in just a second. But another move I really like about this schedule, and I'm all positive about March, Barber Motorsports Park moves up into March, late March from late April. I love this move. I like this a lot. I never was a big fan. I think Barber is a great facility, great racing, very supportive of IndyCar, all of the above. We love Barber. We don't love Barber the first week of May. That one always felt weird, especially right after the Indy 500 test. You're all ready to go get ready for the Indianapolis 500, and then you have to go to Alabama. So I think from a schedule flow standpoint, I love Barber kind of having its own spot on the calendar. And I think I hope they keep it there. I hope they keep that in late March, because I would like to see Barber kind of be its own thing and not constantly get railroaded by the Indy 500. Now, this is where there's going to be some criticism, and I'll explain why there shouldn't be as much criticism about April as there probably will be. But the only race in April is the Long Beach Grand Prix. Now, Long Beach, of course, Needs no explanation. It is it's the second biggest crown jewel race. It's the one that everybody circles on their calendar every year. If you say you can't circle Indy, they circle Long Beach. I don't hate Long Beach owning April. I don't hate that. In fact, I kind of like it because I think, you look at the TV rating with Long Beach and you can blame golf all you want, but that was unacceptable for such a big race. So I think if we can spend a little bit of time building up Long Beach and making that an event and hopefully kind of drawing people into that, yes, it's in a black hole, but hey, let's get all on hands on deck. Let's get Long Beach going. Of course, May, I don't really need to tell you what happens in May. You have the road course race. You have qualifications for the Indy 500 and the Indy 500 itself. Then you have, like it or not, you have the traditional stop in Detroit at the end of May, which is fine. It's all good. It's fine. No problem with Detroit. Does have a goofy out pit lane, though. Then to Gateway, which is continuing as a night race. We love that. That's awesome. That race should have never not been a night race, but we're glad it's back. It's good that it's kind of close to the Indy 500, too. It's kind of filling that role that Milwaukee used to. A couple of weeks between that and the Indy 500, I don't think is the worst thing in the world, too, because it gives some people who might have gone to or might be going to both a little bit of rest. And shout out to you guys who will do the Indy 500 Detroit and Gateway. You guys are the real fans. Then a week off, and then on to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin for the traditional stop at Road America. 2 races in June. Again, the spacing of the calendar, and I'll talk about the spacing of the calendar a little bit later when I kind of show you kind of how smart IndyCar was in putting the schedule together this year. Only 2 races in June. That's way better than it was this year, or sorry, not June, but July. July is where things get a lot better from where the schedule was this time last year. Only 2 races in July. Mid-Ohio, it's traditional July 4th weekend date. And then one of the big changes, and one of the changes that is a weird one I don't necessarily agree with, but I like the effort and the change because they at least realized that they needed to do something more than just move Nashville. So Nashville is in the slot of a Sunday night race. It is going to have a lead-in from the World Cup final, and they are increasing the distance of Nashville to 400 miles. Now, we haven't seen a race at the 400-mile distance since Pocono in 2013. Now, I would have, if I was calling the shots, and I don't know why this decision was made, I would have just gone full bird and made it a 500-mile race. But I like that. I like a 400-mile race. I think that's going to be a great length. Nashville was one of the best races of this year. It was one of the best races of last year. It stands to reason it will be one of the best races of 2026. If you have that big audience coming in from the World Cup, granted, most of them are not going to stay around. But if you give them an entertaining product, go right on the air and get right to racing, you might keep 2 million. And I think that would be really cool. So I don't love this. I like this. Now, July originally, and we'll talk about Mexico City a little bit later too, but this was originally going to be the Laguna Seca date. So Nashville and Laguna Seca essentially swapped. So Laguna Seca was going to be the race that was going to get the lead in from the World Cup. Now it's Nashville. Portland to begin August, then onto the streets of Markham. We've talked about that. A bit of a surprise here, and it makes sense because of the fact that not only did Mexico City not happen, but Washington, D.C. also didn't happen. Milwaukee is going back to a doubleheader. And I will be honest here, Milwaukee should have never not been a doubleheader. If you're not going to run it as the race after the Indy 500, and you were going to run a doubleheader anyway this past season at Iowa, I think the change should have been made last year to move the doubleheader from Iowa to Milwaukee and make Iowa a single race this year. I did not think there was a good idea to only have one race in Milwaukee this year. I'm glad it's back to 2 races. I thought, and I'm not a big doubleheader fan. I know the industry's not a doubleheader fan. But to me, that was an awesome race weekend 2 years ago in Milwaukee. It was one of the best value for money weekends you could have gotten as a racing fan. It was just so much fun. It was so awesome. So I don't expect this is going to stay as a doubleheader. Probably as more tracks and venues get added to the schedule, Milwaukee will go back to one race. But folks, I would support that race. If you have any inkling or inclination that you want to go see a race at Milwaukee, go to a race weekend at Milwaukee, that one is probably the one to go to. And then the season finale at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Now, I've kind of said my piece about this. I disagree with this move. You might as well name this race, whether Alex has the championship locked up or not, the Alex Palou victory lap, because I would have a hard time believing that anyone is going to, make a race out of Laguna Seca. And that's nothing again, Laguna Seca is an incredible facility. It is so well managed right now. It's well promoted. I have no doubt, great sponsor. I have no doubt that race is going to be everything it needs to be from a corporate standpoint, which unfortunately, as a fan, the corporate standpoint a lot of times takes priority over what I want. And Laguna Seca is a great place to host corporate folks. It also hardly ever rains at Laguna Seca. So I guess from a TV perspective, it would make some sense. If you're trying to make sure that you don't ever have a delay, just make sure you don't run in the morning. Laguna Seca would work out just for that because the weather's great. Trust me, the weather was great at Laguna Seca this year. But on the other hand, from a TV perspective, my God, and from a series perspective, you had an oval season finale. You had a season finale where we could have had a really awesome championship fight. And through happenstance, through the fact that Alex Palou is just on a generational run, we did not have a championship fight come down to Nashville. And by our luck, we're going to come down to Laguna Seca. There's going to be like 6 drivers eligible for the championship. But Alex Palou is going to be one of them. And Alex Palou is going to go out there and win by 20 seconds. And it's not going to be a great TV product. And hopefully, you know what, you guys? I'll tell you what. If that's going to be the WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, Java House, Alex Palou Victory Lap Grand Prix, just bring all the championship stuff. Bring the Astor Cup to Milwaukee. We'll just crown him there. And we can have the victory lap. And you guys can all golf at Pebble Beach and drink wine and have a great old time. It'll be great. Weather will be great. Yeah, there you go. There's the schedule. A few more things came out. I was unable to attend this press conference, by the way. I had a prior arrangement. But our boy Bob Pockers from Fox Sports has got us on some extra details. Phoenix, 1-year deal, to be determined if it returns in 2027. So I'm going to say what I've said about a few other ovals. IndyCar fans, and I know it's on the West Coast, so it's a little bit more difficult than me screaming at you to go to Milwaukee or Nashville. If you want Phoenix, go to Phoenix. Go to Phoenix. We want to support Phoenix. We want to keep that race on the schedule. You want an oval before Indy? Go to Phoenix. Buy your tickets. Go to the Penske Museum in Arizona, right next to the racetrack. Go to Phoenix. Support Phoenix. Go to Phoenix. Because if it's a 1-year deal, they are testing the waters. And there's no guarantee it's going to be there, especially with other West Coast races potentially joining the schedule next year. For example, Denver. Go to Phoenix. Phoenix likely prior to Xfinity in the early evening, so not a night race, at least according to Bob. And also before Xfinity, which I think is disappointing. I wish IndyCar was the headliner. Laguna Seca, likely the site of the finale for multiple years. So we fumbled the oval season finale, everybody. Such a shame. Hopeful for Mexico City in 2027. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it at this point. Because, the schedule's almost... Well, I guess you don't have to worry about the World Cup next year. I'll believe it when I see it. That's all I'll say about Mexico City. And Washington, D.C., this is something I heard a couple of weeks ago. I think I said it to you guys here. D.C. didn't make sense for 2026. So even if that's a possibility, it was never going to happen this year. There's no way you're going to put a street course together in less than 12 months. And that's what it was going to take. So, not saying the DC is not happening, because I know there's the talks are down the road on that one. But yeah, I guess that's another fumble of this schedule, is that there's not an East Coast race. unless you count St. Pete. There's not an East Coast race. So, yeah. But I guess I'll leave this on a positive note. And this could very well be the David Land content schedule for next year. Gee whiz. Oh, shoot, I leaked it. Man, I should have set myself an embargo. But really well scheduled by IndyCar here. Because for a lot of us in the industry, we also dabble in IMSA at Le Mans and other places at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So when you look at the schedule from this perspective, the fact that there are no clashes with IMSA, there's no clash with the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and there's no clash with the Brickyard 400, I think is awesome. Now, March is going to be tough for a lot. March is going to be tough. That's going to be a lot of travel. I ain't going to be living in my house a lot in March. But we like to be busy. But that's cool. Because for a lot of drivers, crew members, media people, you have got a lot of content there in March. That's going to be a hell of a start to the season. I also want to talk about April real quick. I guessed on the date. I don't know what the date is, but presumably the Indy 500 test will happen in April. It usually does. I expect it will again. And especially if you do it after Long Beach, it makes a ton of sense logistically and for just the sanity and the health of the crews, is that you can load in for that test, load into your garage, and then not leave. We could have the whole damn thing set up for the month of May in April, and no one has to go to Alabama. I think that actually, from an industry perspective, that's huge. Because then the focus is just totally on Indy. And I get it. I get where the criticism would come in on that, but I think keeping the consistency of the schedule, once you go on that oval for the first time in the year, everybody is thinking about the Indy 500 from that point forward. So again, I love Barber in March. June. Hey, Alex Palou, you can run the 24 Hours of Le Mans this year. That's awesome. I think it's awesome that IndyCar drivers will be able to go to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Yes, it will be difficult between Gateway and Road America. Yes, you'll miss the test weekend, but it's open. It's available. You can do it. And I certainly hope a few of our drivers do that. Watkins Glen 6 hours after Road America. Brickyard 400 being an open weekend. The fact that ever happened, that there was an IndyCar race happening on the weekend of the Brickyard 400. Look, because I love IMS too. I was shocked that ever was allowed to happen. You can't split your fan base like that. So I think that's just good for everybody, that the Brickyard 400 is its own separate weekend again, and IMS is able to kind of be all hands on deck for that, and IndyCar is able to be all hands on deck for their races. Road America 6 hour, which is the first week of August, and it's apparently the only major race that's happening on that weekend. So everybody get on up to Road America. It's going to be IMSA Riz, baby. And yeah, I mean, one race in September, Labor Day weekend for Laguna, kind of a late Labor Day weekend this year. Not an NFL clash, though. I don't hate this. I think there's a lot of good, a lot of positive. I think they made the improvements that they were able to logistically and logically make for this year. And I think there's some opportunity to grow in the future. You look at some of the venues. Again, let's say Mexico, DC, and Denver all happen next year. And let's say you keep Phoenix. You probably go back to one race at Milwaukee, but you're close to 20 events. That don't sound too bad, do it? He says in a hillbilly accent. I think there's some stuff to work with here. I don't think this is a bad schedule at all. I think it really works. That's my opinion. Thank you guys so much for listening. Got a lot of IMSA stuff coming this week. Going to be a lot of fun. Get to cover a race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There's nothing wrong with that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.